Something happened at my dance studio this week that stopped me in my tracks. A former student of mine registered her daughter for dance class. Now, you guys, this isn't the first time it happened, but this time it really hit me. Their dad was sitting there holding the baby, just wide-eyed and excited about his new chapter of life. And I couldn't help but smile because I remember those days so clearly, don't you, if you have kids? When you're in that stage of life, your 20s or your 30s, you're building everything. You're building a family, a career, a future, and you're doing it with this beautiful innocence, like anything is possible. You're completely exhausted as well. Because every season of life is hard, you guys. The baby stage, the toddler stage, the middle school stage, the teenage stage, oh my gosh. And even when the kids start to grow up and leave the house, that is really hard too. It's all hard, right? It's just hard in different ways. When I started my business, my kids were 11 and under. I had 5 of them. The baby was 2 years old. And that was the moment I decided to turn my dance studio from a hobby into a real business. That stage of life. Was it the perfect time? Absolutely not. But here's what I've learned after being in business for over 15 years. There is no perfect time. There will always be something competing for your time and your energy, which is why systems are so important. If you don't document what you do, if you don't create repeatable processes, you are going to drown in your business. And that's exactly why I wanted to bring on today's guest. Chanda Coston is a business strategist, Navy veteran, and a CEO of Chanda Co. She helps women, especially those in their 40s, or what she calls the third chapter of life, move from overwhelm to organized execution. With over 20 years of leadership and project management experience, Chanda teaches entrepreneurs how to create clear decision paths, build strategic structure, and turn their vision into measurable results. Her work focuses on helping women build businesses that are profitable, sustainable, and aligned with the life they actually want to live. And if you're a business owner who has ever felt overwhelmed, stuck, or like you're carrying everything yourself, this conversation is going to resonate. Let's get real. Welcome to the Visibility Podcast, where busy isn't a strategy and doing all the things stops today. You've built a real business. Now let's make it the go-to option. Hey, I'm Melissa Rose. Let's get visible. Welcome to the Visibility Podcast, Chanda Coston. How are you?
I am well. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am looking forward to the conversation. I think it'll be amazing.
It will be. It will be. We put it out there. It will be. Tell everybody where you're coming in from. Just give us a little nugget of that.
Sure. So I'm currently residing in North Carolina. So Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Most people are like, where is that? It's an hour outside of Nags Head, an hour from Virginia Beach, all the places most people know when they come into town. Moved here recently because my mom's husband is terminal, and so I wanted to support her in that. And so here I am.
All right. And how long have you been in that area like
In
that?
this area, almost 2 years now. Not quite 2 years.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you have quite the extensive background resume. I am super excited for y'all to learn from her. So before we dive into who you are, what you do, and who you serve, what do you hope people, by the end of our conversation today, what do you hope to leave them with?
Mm, just a breath of fresh air, right? Because I think entrepreneurship is a lot of times can feel like it's lonely and it's isolated if you don't have a good community and a good support group. And so a lot of times when we tell our stories, it is really about people seeing themselves in us and knowing that, I'm gonna get past this. This is not gonna go forever, and that there is a way to like something to do. There's a way out. There's an answer. There's a solution, right? There's always a solution,
Yes,
but
there's
sometimes it just feels like it takes forever to get to it. So,
yes, there's always a solution. I was just listening this morning on a podcast. There's situations and there's solutions, and there's always a way out. We just maybe don't always like the way out. It's always the
that
hard
part.
thing. So I love that we're talking about this because this is the season, the time of year here in Wisconsin. It is really meh. It's like cloudy, overcast. We're supposed to get some more snow. We're just cranky. We're over it. I just went to the library. I have a dance studio for those of you that don't know. So I still teach the littles a little bit. And so I did a little sample class. It was packed full. There was over 60 people in this room because we're all just like we need something, something to do.
Something,
So,
yeah.
and then as business ownership with the New Year's resolutions, the goals, the milestones, I've been like, we're just kind of like in that, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to speak to this. So tell everybody who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Absolutely. My name is Chanda Coston, and I am the CEO and founder of Chanda Co. And I focus on women in the third quarter. Now, what does that mean? Third quarter is
Yeah.
women typically around 40-ish, right? So a little less than 40, a little over than 40. And I help them get clear in their business, identifying courses of actions and plan of actions, strategies, and then hold them accountable to execute so that they can enjoy the life that they desire to have, for sure.
And how did you get into this? Can you tell us a little bit of your scenic
Oh.
route and how you landed here? Just the cliff notes,
The
but
cliff
yeah.
notes, let me see. By trade, I'm a program manager, right? And so that'll give you projects and project management strategy piece. Really good at executing things and identifying processes. But I got into coaching because I experienced a major loss. And so it shifted me from corporate into serving people. And I decided I wanted to take the thing that I was really good at, which is business strategy and project management and Lean Six Sigma, and help people who look like me and felt like me and showed up in the world like me, which is a woman over 40 with a family and lots of competing priorities. I think the number one thing I hear from my clients is, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know what to do. And because I'm a systems girl and a structure girl, it's like, well, let's get you taken care of. And so watching another woman go from being overwhelmed to breathing and being excited about something they want to do, it just does it for me. So here I am.
Very much so. We have aging parents. We
Yeah.
have growing children
Yeah.
that are leaving the nest. I myself, my daughters, we're starting to plan a wedding and do that. And
Ah.
that's just crazy. And like it's like, how did we get here? And competing priorities. I love how you said that. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. So you're a systems girl, structure systems. So
Mhm.
that is and as creatives, that's a struggle and
Yeah.
with these competing priorities. So what is the biggest so tell me some big mistakes you see entrepreneurs make that procrastination, I call it procrastination. They don't realize they're procrastinating. Maybe they're avoiding the big thing they need to
Mhm.
do. And it's creative, productive, creative procrastination because we're doing something, but it's not what needs to get done. So how do you work with your clients to get them over
A
that
few
hump?
different ways. First things first is having them be clear on what they're actually trying to accomplish and what does success look like. And so if
Mm,
you don't even identify that, you're constantly chasing something and moving the goalposts. So first things first, let's figure out what is it exactly you're trying to do. Okay. And so for those that are new in the space or in the entrepreneurial space, or they're looking to do a major pivot or change a hobby into a business, then we talk about that, right? It's like, are you passionate about it? Do you love what you do? Right? Are you good at what you do? Because you can be passionate about it and not actually be good at it. Will people pay for it? Does it solve a problem? And then finally, does it fit your season? Because capacity is everything. Capacity is everything.
mm,
And
hmm.
so once we do that, it's like, okay, well, now we have our goalposts. Let's talk about what does it look like to do that? What business model can you support? How you want to accomplish this thing? And then let's map that out. Let's get some clear goals, some clear tasks that's associated to that goal, some milestones so we can track it because you don't know if you're tracking real progress if you have nothing to measure it by, right? And then let's hold you accountable to execute because most people that are held accountable actually get stuff done. So for
True.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest reason people get a coach is the accountability factor. They know what they should do, but they want
Hmm.
somebody. They don't want to admit it, but they need it. They need the
They do need
accountable.
it. We
Yeah,
need it.
we all need it. We
Let's
all
not
need it.
isolate.
So you help a lot of people. You mentioned people who've done things. Maybe they're starting something. They have a hobby
Mhm.
that they're like, I think I want to do this business. Like, let's talk to that. Let's speak to that beginner entrepreneur-ish who wants
Sure.
to start in there and do that. What tools or guidance do you give to them to create a package that people are going to buy? Like, how do you walk them through that or give a
Um,
story?
At this age, one of the things that we
Yeah.
struggle with is imposter syndrome and the fear of failing at, our age. So for those that want to pivot and they've had a semblance of success and they checked all the blocks, a lot of people think they're a little crazy and they're like, I really don't know if I do this thing, if I fail, like, what are people gonna think kind of mindset. And so a lot of it, where the coaching piece comes into play, is a lot of it really is encouraging them and allowing them, giving them permission to talk about the thing they want to do, giving them permission to explore it, to be curious about it, to develop it, to make it a viable business. And so there's a difference between a hobby and a business in the sense of the structure, right? And so the work that it takes to actually create a business that is not just sustainable, but at some point scalable, there's going to be work. And so there's a necessity to have a conversation around those things, right? So as a systems and structure girl, I'm going to ask you, once you tell me what you want to do, I say, okay, this could work. Let's talk about your business model. Then we're going to talk about things that are required within the business for it to actually, be sustainable. So what roles and responsibilities are you currently doing as the solopreneur, as the founder, right? Because as you grow, if you grow, it's going to require extra hands or systems, and you need to be prepared to either hire someone to create that for you. If it's in the system, then it's going to be developed, right? But if it's a person, you're going to need to delegate. And what does that look like? Are you ready to have SOPs, workflows, processes, roles, responsibilities, maybe an org chart? So when you talk about it from that perspective, it's like a little overwhelming, but
Hmm. Hmm.
definitely worth it long term, if because you don't want to just make money and then it's not sustainable because it's not predictable, right?
Hmm.
You want to make sure that when you're thinking about it as a business, it's like, okay, what does that look like? So we map all of that out. And that happens over time. So it's definitely not the thing you do on day one.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why it's so important to have someone that has this type of information that you can kind of do an ebb and flow with. You feed them your goals, you feed them your dreams, you feed them your desires, and they say, okay, let's map this out, let's see what this looks like. And then you walk through the pieces and you build it out, an interim, and you go back, you refine it, and you go again. But that's also the importance of putting something out there, right? And so a lot of times as women, like you said, we want things perfect. And there's a such thing as perfectionism paralysis. And it's like, no, there's another rule called the good enough rule. And it means if it's
Mhm.
80% is good enough. And so we'll release it, get data, see what works, see what didn't, refine it, and then release it again. And so quite the process, but it's doable. And a lot of times after, I'll say week one is the survey, around week 4 to 6, they start to get excited because they can actually see the thing that they want starting to form, right? And so they come to you with a different energy, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Totally.
Yeah. So
Totally.
there's like a transformation that takes place in real life.
Hmm.
From watching the first video when you did the interview with them and we went through their survey, because they all get a client survey, a discovery survey, and we go through it, right? And then after that, once we've talked about it and we've got really clear on some things and they understand my role and what I'm going to help them do, and then of course they go back and do some work when they come back. It's like every time they come back, they're almost a different person.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
That has been my experience. I'm currently working with a coach to develop this part of the business. And I was going to do just a short story, everybody, that I was going to totally change lane, worked with my coach
Hmm.
to like, okay, what does that entail? It wasn't just, okay, yeah, I can make money right now, but long term, how is that going to look? And
Hmm.
that it got really clear really quickly. That's not going to work long term. That's going to
Yeah.
be very exhausting for the
Hmm.
amount of lift that it required to
Hmm.
do. So then I was like, scratch, revisit. And then it came to be like week 4, week 5 that we had some true fun, like momentum, clarity where the business is going. So that if you haven't worked with a coach, that's usually what happens. We have a lot of grunt work, a lot of ugly tear, like cleaning out, getting under the car, getting
Yeah.
dirty, showing them the ugly and being really, you have to be vulnerable and share, but
Yeah.
then it's super fun that way.
It's really important to make sure that the person that you choose to coach you have similar beliefs and you're aligned so that you can
Yes.
trust them with your stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're not vulnerable and you're not transparent and you're not honest, it's not going to work. I can't coach you on something that I'm not aware of and something you're not willing to share. And if you're not going to trust me in that space. And so I
Mhm.
think that is so key in the process for sure.
What systems or structures separate businesses that stay stuck from those that actually scale?
Operational pieces.
Yes, all these operational pieces, but like, what are some things that you see your clients, they're like, they're missing? that can share, that pulls people in that go, okay, yep, I need help with that, or I didn't think of
Lots of
that.
them. Like a lot of the things I mentioned up front, the workflows, the processes,
Okay,
having
but
really defined.
you're in it. You understand
Mhm,
that. You understand that
mhm.
terminology. So what is,
Okay.
break it
Oh,
down.
okay. I see what you're saying.
You're
Um,
industry, as I say, you're talking dirty. You're talking dirty to me, girl, because I don't know what you mean by that.
gotcha.
I'm just a physical therapist working with my clients. I don't know what workflows, like I know how to bring in a client, but I don't know what
The back
stuff am I
end, like
missing? Yeah.
exactly. And so let's use that one as an example. If I had a client who was a physical therapist and they wanted to scale their business and they wanted
Yeah.
to expand their practice, then we would sit down and talk about their current workload and their current threshold and capacity and what it would look like to actually do that. And so we would go through basically an audit, right, of their time and how they spent their time. And we would talk about all the different nuances within their business that they may not be considering, that they may want to consider automating, delegating, or completely eliminating, right? And so the way we would do that is based on what they intended to do. If they don't have the capacity to bring on admin support, then we're going to talk about how we can bring in a system to automate some of the onboarding and to handle some of the paperwork, of course, with all the compliances, right? But to make
Right.
it easier and more streamlined so that now she's just reviewing things that are already being done on automations, which is completely doable in this day and age, right?
Hmm.
Versus her having to manually take care of all those individual tasks. The next thing we would
Hmm.
talk about if she was going to bring on a team for some of those tasks, what is it that she does on a day-to-day basis? And so we would talk about sitting down and reviewing her day-to-day steps. What's the first thing you do when you get in? And what does that look like? Okay, when you check a client in for the day, what does that look like? And who could do that? Will it have to be a physical therapist? Does it make sense for it to be a physical therapist? Or is this something that someone of a lower caliber at a different pay point could do so you can keep more money in your business?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so those are the different processes that would basically we would map out into a workflow so we can identify what is being done in the business on a day-to-day basis. What processes do she need to continue? What of those processes can be automated and which ones should be delegated, right? And if she's finding that there's bottlenecks, meaning there's stop gaps, maybe there's something that has to come to her 3 times currently for an approval when she can have someone else do the initial grunt work and then it comes to her finally. And so it eliminates a amount of time of churn, right, to get something out
Hmm.
the door. And so when we're looking at it from that standpoint, then it increases not just her bandwidth and capacity, but it makes it easier because now she's clearer on what's happening in her business. And every time someone comes into her business to do something, she doesn't have to stop and train them because she will be documenting this, creating standard operating procedures in order to delegate that. And so there may be minimal training, there may be minimal oversight, but it won't be every single day. I'll have to step into this role to take me away from money making activities, which is actually servicing my clients in order to do these, I call it grunt work,
Hmm.
but this task, right?
Doing the business,
Doing the
like doing the grunt
business.
work of the
Yeah.
business. Yeah. Okay, so when you say you help people in their third quarter of life, are these people that have been in business for a while, or are there people that are in the third quarter of life wanting to start a business?
So it tends to be different tracks, right? So you
Hmm.
do have some people who have had careers and decide they want to pivot into a new area and they've had businesses and they want to expand their business, or they're in business, but they don't have the operational infrastructure mapped out, which means they can't
Yeah.
scale,
Yeah.
right? And so it's really meeting a customer or client where they are in their journey, coaching them from that space. So
Mm-hmm.
the reason that we do the discovery survey is because it's almost 50 questions, which sounds really overwhelming, but it helps me get really clear really fast. And the reason that is because it helps me know where they are with their business acumen, any limiting beliefs, how they're operating, because all of that is addressed within that discovery survey. And then I review it over a few days. I'm a little older, so I print it out and I make my notes. And I meet with my clients and I ask questions on anything that's not clear, as well as give them an opportunity to ask me any questions because we'll be going back and forth. And then from there, they get a client resource guide that addresses all their personal development stuff. And so anything that I see they're having challenges with that may help them, like time management or low confidence or self-worth, like those are very varied, but all very real in this space. Right. And so I may say, I think you should read this book. I think you should use these tools. I think just resources. And it's
Hmm.
all flexible because the basis of what I do is the strategy piece. But I find it almost impossible to give someone a strategy if their mind is not able to like handle
Mhm.
it in the
Yeah.
sense of they're overwhelmed, right?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I think it's important to talk about all of those pieces. And so, and that's the other thing is we talk about their non-negotiables because if their non-negotiables are in the way of their business, they're never going to get to their business. And I actually advise people if you have young children and you want to scale a business, you can always start another business. You always grow another business. You cannot get those moments back with your children. And I think it's so key, like to be there for those moments. And so I'm never going to say, you know, just hire a nanny. I'm not that person. That's your
Mhm.
personal decision. But if
Mhm.
we talk about you have, young kids and they're still in, school and they're in the house and you're a very active mom and you just have this thing. And I'm saying, well, how can we sustain that? Right? Because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon until you're better able to have more free time to actually go, or is there a system we can use, right? To increase your capacity so it doesn't take away from those moments. But I think that's so key and so necessary to talk about.
I feel like as the business grows, I'm speaking from my personal experience. I mean, I have an assistant to help me document the systems. Everything is like as soon as we like, oh, this is kind of a new thing, we need to tweak that. But it is always a revisit because you can't. What I'm learning or realizing is I need to have a little bit of depth. Yes, the systems are documented, but if I move her up, who can come in behind her so we can keep growing. I think that's where when I was starting the business, I was told document everything, and I was like, I can't even fathom that right now because I'm just trying to figure out how to get people in the door, right? So the system structure, what you do is so important and so helpful for that business owner who doesn't know where to start and or just needs the accountability to get it done. So
Mhm.
when you work with people, what is your favorite way to work with them? I assume you work one-on-one with them, but is it like how long? Can you tell us a little bit about the process? So if somebody's considering it, they have an idea.
Sure. So for the clarity sprint, you meet with me 3 times.
Okay.
For the build to blueprint, you meet with me over 12 weeks, and then you have access to me once a week for a year.
Okay.
Through a weekly call.
Okay.
And so the Clarity Sprint is one-on-one and the Build to Blueprint is group. So
Okay.
that gives you perspective. But in both situations, if you ever have a question, need anything, then you have access through cell and through email, right? I think the benefit of having a coach or a strategist or any of that in your corner is that you can leverage their experience, etc. And so, like you were saying, just starting out, it's overwhelming. But if you're with a good coach and they say do this thing, then they should have templates, right? Worksheets. They should have workbooks. They should have things to kind of help make it easier so that you can take the will and make it your own, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to take it and make it your own. But yeah, I think it's definitely a game changer from those who starred in as creatives, like you said, we sometimes feel like we're all over the place because it's like, okay, which one of these things am I supposed to be doing today? Versus, okay, I know I need to get these things in place for my business, and so I'm going to time block a segment of time to get this done so I can check that block, and then I'll set another time block maybe every quarter or twice a year to revisit these documents because they're living as your business grows and time changes and everything evolves. These documents should be growing and evolving with your business. But it's taking the new person and telling them all these things, taking someone who went into business and just happened to do better than they thought, and now they're struggling to keep up because they're missing those pieces.
Right.
It's like, okay, how do I do that? And even taking the
Yeah.
person who's been in the business, say, hey, I want to pivot. Like, what makes sense? How do I do that? What do you recommend? It's like, so having someone to help pull it out of you, a lot of times it helps a lot for sure.
I just want to ask a little tactical question. It
Sure.
might not be right. So when you're helping people create the systems and structures, are you like helping them get into a project man? Are you doing that with them? Are you helping them implement that? Like if they haven't done that, like are you, that's a little granular, but do you know what I mean by
So,
that?
in both situations, whether you do the clarity sprint, which is just meeting with me 3 days, first day we diagnose, the next day we come up with a clear course of action, and the last day you get a plan of action, right? But
Right.
in both situations, you get a plan of action and milestones. The plan of action and milestones, it identifies clear tasks that's attached to the thing you say you want to accomplish, estimated
Hmm.
starting completion dates, risks that may occur, dependencies that are dependent upon getting the task done, and then a notes area, right? And why do I put so much emphasis on putting all that information in a document? Is because I won't always be there, one, and two, it's your business. But
Mhm.
I don't push anyone into project management or Lean Six Sigma. I just help them understand how to use the tools that's
Okay.
within that and how to think more from a project management perspective by working with me and asking them questions and showing them how to format data.
How can people best get a hold of you?
My website, chanda-co.com, and social media, chanda two underscores co.
All right. And you're on Instagram, I see, and TikTok, or is it TikTok?
Instagram,
No,
TikTok, YouTube,
you are
LinkedIn.
all over. This was insightful and helpful for people to understand system scale, as we know, um, and documenting all the things. And sometimes when you're overwhelmed and not sure where to start, Chanda is a great person to lean into. So go find her on social. We'll be sure to put all the links here below as well. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the visibility audience?
Not at all. We only live once to live. Do the thing that
Hmm.
makes your heart warm.
Amen. That's
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Please share it with your business bestie because we need more people in business, especially women in the third quarter. I like that.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Take care. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Peace. Bye bye.